Hi, I'm Nicola McKenzie at Dunham McCarthy Financial Services, and today I will be explaining the most common mistakes that people make when they arrange their critical illness cover. And I'm telling you this so that you can avoid making similar mistakes. So stay tuned. Now, as a company, we specialise in arranging critical illness insurance as well as life cover, income protection, many different varieties of insurance, and we provide completely free advice and also arrange policies completely free as well. So get in touch, book an appointment, give us a call, drop us an email today, and we'd be happy to help you. We deal with insurers from many leading companies that you'd be familiar with, such as Liverpool Victoria, Legal & General and Aviva, to name a few, and we can help you to compare all of the options. All insurance policies that we arrange as well, you also have the option to have your will written completely free of charge through mylastwill.co.uk. So make sure that you get in touch. But let's start by looking first of all what critical illness cover is. Critical illness cover is a type of insurance that pays out usually a tax-free lump sum if you're diagnosed with or undergo surgery for a critical illness that meets the policy definition with that particular insurer. Now, the main conditions that usually are covered are cancer, stroke and heart attack, but it does depend on the insurance company and the type of critical illness policy you have as to exactly what's covered, because some cover many more than that. Now, it's designed to help to support you and your family financially whilst you're dealing with the diagnosis of that condition, so that you can focus on recovery without having to worry about how you're going to pay the bills. So the first mistake that people often make, and I'd say that this is the main one with critical illness cover, is they underestimate how important quality is when it comes to critical illness. Now, with life insurance, yes, it does vary massively in quality, but the variations with critical illness are even more than with life cover, because arguably with life cover, most policies will pay out if you die. There will be a few exceptions, some might cover things like accidental death, etc. But generally speaking, it is much less detailed than the variations with critical illness cover. With critical illness cover, quite often people will just pick the cheapest policy, or they'll go directly to one insurance company or one bank to set the policy up. And that's really not ideal, because it varies so massively amongst the options. And one company isn't going to tell you if there's a better quality with an alternative company. That's just not going to happen. So it's really important that you get specialist advice from somebody like ourselves who can compare all of the options with you. Now, critical illness cover, like I said, it does vary, and the difference in quality usually is a few pence, if not a few pounds in difference. So you can usually get something significantly better in quality for a small price difference. And let me show you an example. So what we've got is two insurance companies. One along the left hand side is what I'd call one of the most basic critical illness policies you can get. One along the right is another leading insurer providing one of the more comprehensive types of policies. Now, along the left, we can see that this particular provider only covers 3 critical illnesses: cancer, stroke and heart attack. Along the right, we've got an option that covers 95 critical illnesses. So that's a massive difference. And obviously this is all about increasing the likelihood of a successful claim. And it would be very disappointing, I'd say, if you had one of those 92 illnesses, if you were with the provider along the left, and you couldn't claim because it wasn't covered. And to know that you could have just paid an extra few pounds every month to be covered for that condition is really, really crucial. Now, going a bit further, some of the differences here in comparing these two providers is that the provider along the right hand side would pay out for less advanced cancers. Now, I'm looking at cancer because cancer is the most common area of critical illness claims. That's what people usually tend to claim for. And although it covers many other things, but we know that cancer is one of the biggest killers. And with cancer, the cancer would pay out, yes, on both policies if the cancer was malignant, so if it was spreading, but a less advanced cancer, you wouldn't get paid on the policy on the left. So that's why I say it's really, really important that the policy that you have in place is providing the best value for money and that's going into the detail of covering you for those extensive conditions. Now, even when you're looking at critical illness with the same provider, one company can have 2 or sometimes 3 different quality structures to their policies. So you could have a critical illness provider that offers a standard option and a comprehensive option, and again, the differences between the two can be massive. Now, the next mistake that people commonly make when they arrange critical illness cover is not consider including life insurance with it. When you're looking at critical illness cover, it usually costs exactly the same to have standalone critical illness as it does to have a life or critical illness policy. Now, some companies even charge slightly more for critical illness standalone, which is bizarre, but that's just how their pricing structure works. Now, if you had a standalone critical illness policy without life insurance attached to it, then most policies stipulate that you have to survive. So you're diagnosed with cancer or a stroke, you have to survive at least 10 or 14 days with most policies. Again, check policy conditions, but that's usually how it works. So if you had a condition, you were diagnosed and then you died a few days after, with a standalone critical illness policy, you wouldn't get paid anything. Whereas if it was a life or critical illness policy, then you would get paid either way. So it's really, really important for most people to include life cover with their standalone critical illness. And usually if you were to do that, the insurer will pay out either if you passed away or had a critical illness, which is useful because you may have an instance where you died suddenly in a car accident, you never had a critical illness, in which case, again, your policy would still pay out if it includes life cover. But if it was standalone critical illness, it would not. So the third common mistake that I see people make when they are arranging critical illness cover is that they use an all or nothing approach. Now, what I mean by that is that critical illness cover comparatively costs more than life insurance. So giving you an example, a £200,000 life insurance policy for the same applicant, same age, same health, etc., would generally cost less than the same £200,000 worth of critical illness cover. Reason for that, statistically, we are much more likely before we retire to have a critical illness than we are to pass away. Macmillan statistics show that 1 in 2 of us born after 1960 will get cancer in a lifetime. And the critical illness element of a policy is designed to help you to continue your lifestyle as you recover, because a critical illness, you know, cancer, you are likely to recover from that cancer in many cases, and that's what that financial support is there for. Now, because life insurance is usually cheaper due to the statistic of passing away before retirement being lower than having a critical illness, people quite often think that because they have such large amounts of life cover, that it's essential to have such large amounts of critical illness cover. Now, yes, in an ideal world, let's say that you've got a mortgage, it would be great to have the mortgage paid off if you had a critical illness or if you passed away. That's the ideal scenario for most people. But usually if that option is not affordable for whatever reason, quite often people will just completely leave the critical illness cover. Not ideal, just because the cost of the cover is potentially out of your budget. There are many other ways that you can approach having the cover to suit your circumstances. So for example, it might be that covering the whole mortgage is, yes, unaffordable for you, but you could maybe consider covering half the mortgage, or you could maybe consider a year's worth of salary as an example. Now, a year's worth of salary, of course, that's not going to help as much as having your mortgage paid off, but it's much better, again, than nothing. So my point is that critical illness should be structured, again, to your individual circumstances, your attitude to risk, and to everyone's individual budget. And again, that's what we can help explore with you. So the next common mistake that people make is not including children's critical illness cover. Now, of course, this is only a potential mistake if you have or are about to have children, but many policies can include children's cover, which a lot of people are not aware of, and quite often some policies may include it free of charge, or they may offer it as an added extra. Now, I know it's not a nice thought for any parent, but sadly the harsh reality is that children's claims make up the top 5 critical illness claims just in general. So it's really important that you consider financially what impact it would have if your child was to become sick. And having children's cover helps deal with the financial impact of having to perhaps take time off work, pay medical bills, etc. Now, the policies, again, like it does for adults, the quality of cover does vary. Some don't include children's cover at all, and usually it comes as an added option with parents' critical illness cover. Some children's cover even goes as far as extending to covering people during pregnancy, so it would cover pregnancy-related conditions. Some children's policies cover the cost of treatment if the child needs to go abroad for options that are maybe not in the UK. Some don't. So again, it varies massively. Really important area if you've got kids to consider this. And again, we can help you to navigate through some of those options. Now, the next common mistake is that people choose what are called low start or reviewable options. Now, a low start option is basically where you take the cover out and it starts cheaper in the early years, and then it increases based on age or a price that the insurance company sets. But the level of cover usually doesn't increase with it. It's just that the cost goes up. It started off cheaper. Now, that's not ideal in many cases because quite often the cover increases to a point where it becomes unaffordable and people end up cancelling those policies, usually at a time where they need it most. Now, I'm not saying that low start is a bad idea for everybody because it can make sense in some circumstances. So, for example, if you're expecting a promotion in future years, then a low start option might help you to get the cover you need for now, and then you can review it in future years. But it's not ideal for everybody. And where a reviewable policy is concerned, again, that starts off at a certain price and then that can go up or down purely based on whatever the insurance company decides to do. So again, that option is usually not suitable for everybody. So if you're looking to budget more easily with your cover, then having something where the price is fixed might be the better option. The next common mistake made is that people will go direct to a bank or to one insurance company to arrange cover, or arrange it blindly using comparison websites. Now, the quality, as I mentioned in the first point, varies massively, and that's why unless you have a detailed knowledge and experience of exactly what policy covers which conditions, then it's going to be very difficult for you to know if what you're getting is the best quality for your circumstances. But not only that, most companies or all of the companies will vary in terms of how they treat medical history and lifestyle for each applicant. So for example, if you you like to bungee jump from time to time, every insurance company is going to treat that differently. If you use electronic cigarettes, but let's say they don't contain nicotine, some insurance companies would charge you more because they would consider you a smoker, some would not. Again, with regards to medical history, if you've got a family member with cancer, or you have got a high body mass index, for example, then some insurance companies again might price differently to the next. So it's really important that you're comparing all of the options, and again, because this is an area we specialise in, we can help you to research the best option, not just from a quality perspective but from a price perspective as well. So the next mistake I see people making is that they procrastinate or postpone taking the cover out at all for future years. Now, usually people will postpone it on the basis that circumstances are likely to change over the next few years, or sometimes it might be a case of the earlier example I gave. Let's say that the insurer has increased the cost of cover due to high body mass index or smoking, and you know that you are planning to lose weight or stop smoking in the next year or so. Now, the problem with postponing taking cover out in those scenarios is that the cover inevitably is going to get more expensive each year that you get older. Not only that, if your health changes due to a reason that's out of your control, then the cost might be considerably higher in future years, or you may not even be able to get the cover depending on what in your health has changed. Therefore, if your circumstances are due to change in the next few years, or you're planning on changing your medical history or your lifestyle, then it's usually always still a better idea to take the cover whilst you can get it and review it in future years, either amend the cover or add to the cover. In most instances, at least where we arrange policies, there are no cost implications or penalties, shall I say, to doing that. Obviously, the cover change would be priced accordingly at the time that you change it, but ultimately that is usually the more sensible option where you're looking at circumstances changing in future years. The next mistake is that people quite often compare the cover that they have with that of family and or friends. Now, the price that you pay for your critical illness cover is based on your individual circumstances. So it's based on your age, your health, your smoker status, the amount of cover, the term of the cover, the type of the cover, your family history, as well as other factors. So the pricing is so individual that it's just impossible to compare what you have with the next person. And I also say as well that everyone's attitude to risk and peace of mind that they require from their policy is very different. And ultimately, if you find yourself in a scenario where you have had a critical illness and you cannot pay the mortgage, it's not your friend or family member that's going to be dealing with that, it's you. So it's important that you assess what's going to give you peace of mind, and only you can decide what you're comfortable paying and the level of cover that you are comfortable having in place. The next mistake is when people do not share all of their medical history. Now, this one is just really one that you definitely need to avoid, because if you don't disclose everything about yourself to the insurer when they ask you at an application, then they can reduce a claim, or worst case scenario, reject a claim if when you go to make the claim, your doctor's records contradict what you told the insurer at application. Then that claim is likely going to be denied, and you really don't want to be in a situation where you've been paying this money month on month and you cannot use that policy when you need to. Also important to mention that you cannot rely when you apply for these policies on the insurer on the outset going to your doctor to confirm what you've told them, because quite often they don't do that. They're just taking your word for it. So when you come to claim though, they will obviously request your medical file at that point. And like I say, if that information contradicts what you said at application, then you could have a problem on your hands. So it's just not worth it. Make sure that you're open, honest and as accurate as you can be with all of the information that you are asked. Now, to summarise, having critical illness cover in place, it should be there when you need it most, and that's when you come to claim. And quite often the mistakes that I have pointed out today will usually only surface at a point where you need to claim. So that's why it's really important that you avoid these mistakes as best as possible. And that's why we as the experts can help you to navigate through those options, because it is complicated. There are so many different options when you're looking at this type of cover that it's really important that you get expert advice so that we can help you navigate through the options with the detailed knowledge that we have. We can compare options with you and give you advice based on your individual circumstances. Now, the advice that we provide, and even to arrange policies, as I mentioned at the beginning, is completely free of charge. So head over to the website, book yourself an appointment today, drop us an email, give us a call. And it's worth mentioning that we do provide a free will writing service with every policy that we arrange through mylastwill.co.uk. If that video has been useful, then please make sure that you subscribe to the channel, and I'll catch up with you in my next video.